All right, folks, we are doing pizza crust today. So it's not particularly complicated, but for some reason, a lot of folks don't think they can do it. So let's get started. I'll try to make this quick. So this is about a cup and a half of water, microwave to about 102 degrees, 103, 4, 105 degrees. I sort of know what that feels like. So once you get your finger calibrated to it, you kind of know what you're after, but not cold, not too hot. If it's too hot, you'll kill the yeast. So this is just regular dry quick rise. Happens to be Fleshman, or this is Red Star, but Fleshman's is fine. Sprinkle it in there. I don't seem to find a difference between the quote-unquote quick rise and the regular. So either is fine. I don't even notice a difference. So to that, I'm going to add that 1 pack of yeast, just the one, and about a heavy teaspoon of sugar just to feed the yeast. And I'm going to stir that around, and let's check the time. This is going to sit for probably about 6 or 8 minutes, so I'll shut the video off while this gets started. What's going to happen is it'll get slightly foamy as the yeast dissolves and starts to propagate and make itself alive again, at which point we'll do the flour and the rest of it. So this is fairly simple. It takes not too much time. I'm going to let it rise one time. It takes about an hour and a half or maybe 2 start to finish to pizza. So let's let that sit. I'm going to stir it every couple of minutes just to get the clumps dissolved, but we'll leave that for now and we'll check in a minute. Okay, it has been 6 minutes since I left you. I think you can probably see some sort of white, fine bubbles. I maybe wouldn't call it foam, but fine white bubbles, a handful of big ones. So that is ready to add into the flour. This is just all-purpose flour. I prefer bread flour, but I don't have any. The difference is minimal, but that's 2 cups of all-purpose flour and a teaspoon of salt and about a teaspoon, maybe a tablespoon of sugar. Sometimes I add sugar, sometimes I don't, depending on what you're in the mood for the pizza crust. And that's all. There's no fat in there. There's no oil, butter, Crisco, nothing of the sort. So we're just going to dump this in. And I prefer to use a fork just to get it started. Now I'm going to dump it out on the counter, and I'm going to add more flour and knead it. I wind up kneading it for maybe 10 minutes just to get the moisture how I like it and the gluten to come out of the flour just a little bit. And then we'll put it back in the bowl and let it rise. What I like to do is rinse the bowl in warm water just to warm the bowl. And then it'll take about an hour to an hour and a half to rise one time. It'll double or triple in volume. I don't do it twice, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. So that's a little bit wet, but that's good. That's how I always wind up getting it. And we'll rinse that bowl in a minute. So kind of a liberal amount of flour on the countertop. It feels wet. It feels like this is not going to work. But I'm just being pretty gentle with it and just flopping it around, adding some flour as I go. Let's see, so I'm just going to watch the time just to see how long this takes. That's probably about enough flour on the countertop, but I might end up adding a little bit more. So you want it as wet maybe not the right term, but you want it as wet as possible without being too sticky to work. So you can see it kind of coming together. What I do is I just sort of fold it over, push down. When it gets a little less sticky, I'll start to roll it around and knead it like a classic knead, but now I'm just trying to make it less wet and adding some flour. So I'm just sort of folding some flour in. So now I can sort of flop it with my left hand and knead it in with my right hand. just sort of rolling it around like a ball. And I'm going to do this for just a couple minutes. I was going to shut the camera off, but maybe I won't, because it's feeling pretty good already. So this is really simple. Like I said, all there is in the flour is salt and sugar. Sometimes I just add salt, but a little sugar. And that's just, there's really no secret. If anything, you cannot have the water too warm when you add the yeast to it, because it will kill the yeast. And then your crust won't rise at all. And if it's too cold, it'll still work, but it'll just take way too long. And some people put it in the fridge overnight and that sort of stuff, but I've had great luck with this method. I've done this maybe 100 times or more, and I pretty much got it down. So you can see the dough sort of coming together as a nice ball. It's a little bit sticky, but not too bad. I'm gonna just keep rolling it around in flour a little bit, fold it over. I mean, there's no perfect magic trick method to this. You just wanna knead the flour in. I mean, some people use the KitchenAid and the dough hook and all that, but my favorite pizza is, or our favorite pizza is our own. And I got this down. This exact pizza is going to a couple of special people here on campus. And there's another one 50 miles east of here I wish I could make one for, but we'll save that for a different day. So this is, you can see that it's not really sticking to my hands anymore. And I'm just kind of flopping it around. I think I'm not going to add more flour. And so I'm just going to do this for about another 30 seconds. You can see I'm just kind of flipping it up with my left hand, pushing it down. There's a little stick. Pushing it down with a fair bit of force with my right hand to just work that gluten out of the flour. It makes it, that's what makes it. Depends on how you like your crust, but I like mine, you know, a little bit chewy, a little bit, maybe tough isn't the right word, but I guess you'd call it New York style. And so that's all done. So what I'm going to do now is form a ball. And so I just like to sort of fold the bottom underneath. And I'm going to put that in an oiled bowl, just like that. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute, and then we'll let it rise. All right, so that's just been a minute or two while I rinsed out the bowl. And that's about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half olive oil. And like I say, we'll just fold that bottom underneath and make it into a nice ball. And my own little personal trick is I put it top side down first and roll it around and get the bowl and the dough all oiled up, and then flip it over. And you got that nice dome of a dough ball forming at the top. So that's what it looks like now, and we're gonna check it. I'm gonna leave it alone for about 1 hour, at which point it should be pretty much ready to bake. But we'll check in then. All right, see you then. Okay, it has been 1 hour and 20 minutes since we put this aside in a bowl covered with a dishcloth, and it has risen to that volume. And it's ready to, it's been a single rise. You know, I haven't touched it since I put it in the bowl, so I am just gonna pat it down, and it sticks to the bowl a tiny bit, but actually not really. And then just on the countertop here, I don't flip it up in the air, although that'd be fun. I don't roll it with a roller. I just pat it out with my hands to roughly fit the size of the pan. And let's talk about that a little bit. This is the same pan you've seen in the biscuit video. It's an old-fashioned steel. It's thin, it conducts heat really well. I'm not a pizza stone guy. You know, nothing fancy. The My least favorite is an aluminum pan. So don't use aluminum, it just doesn't conduct heat. So I just flop it on there, work it around. It needs minimal adjustment, as you can see, but that's it. I'm gonna bake it at 400 degrees, and it'll come right off of this pan in however long it takes. I'll spare you the toppings and all that, but that's it. The sheet pan is kind of important. Like I said, any kind of cookie sheet will do. I like this one because it's got no lip, so I can slide it off. But do not use aluminum. Do not use anything that Teflon coated pan is okay, but preferably just not aluminum. Pizza stones are fine, but I'm not an expert in that. So that's pizza crust right there. I'll spare you the toppings and all, but we're gonna do sausage. Our favorite is actually a breakfast sausage, not Italian, and homemade pizza sauce, and artichoke hearts, and olives, and fresh tomatoes, and this happens to be some turkey pepperoni, but and mushrooms, pre-sauteed so you get the water out of it. I'm making 2 pizzas. The first one for these 2 folks is going to just be sausage and a little bit of that pepperoni. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching through the whole video, and hopefully this was helpful to you to make pizza crust. This is our favorite pizza. It's pretty simple. It rose for just over an hour, so it's not like an all-day thing, but it is. Today's a Sunday, so I do have a little time. And yeah, that's it. So good luck with that, and hope you like the video. But do, if you haven't, subscribe, and like it. Shoot me a comment if you want. Okay, take care.